Interest in the 45-70 caliber rifles was rekindled when the movie Quigley Down Under, starring Tom Selleck, came out in the early 90s. It was the story of an American cowboy who sailed from the Americas down to Australia to answer a job offering for a long-range sharpshooter. The rifle he used was an 1874 Sharps, now made by the Shiloh Rifle Manufacturing Company. That rifle is now known as a Quigley and was chambered in 45 110 540 caliber. That's 45 caliber, 110 grains of black powder propellant, and a paper-patched 540 grain bullet. It had a tang-mounted vernier peep sight and was accurate out to around 1,200 yards. Right now, a new Sharps Quigley starts at $4,340 and can go north to as high as $7,000 or more. The term Quigley has crept into our shooting vocabulary recently and has at least two meanings. The first is that any Sharps rifle is now known as a Quigley, and secondly, scoring a Quigley means that you got two victims with one shot, as depicted in a poignant scene in the movie. There are actually three variations of the cartridge: the 45-70 Government, the 45-90 Winchester, and the 45-110 Sharps, which is the Quigley. There's actually a third number after those designations that refers to the weight of the bullet. The first model appeared in 1873 as the Springfield Model 1873 and was known as the Trapdoor. It was officially known as the 45-70 405. It replaced the Army 50-70 450 Government because it had better ballistics. The 45-70 405 had a velocity of about 1,350 feet per second. Although retaining the black powder designation, the 45-70 actually transitioned to the new and modern smokeless powder. The bullet was later upgraded from a 405 grain bullet to a 500 to help improve the long-range ballistics. The second variation of the rifle was a lever action that emerged in 1895. It was designated as the Marlin 1895. Other manufacturers use that designation as well, irrespective of the year of development, manufacture, or the actual manufacturer. This model used a 405 grain flat or round nose bullet due to the tubular magazines of the lever actions. Pointed bullets could not be used in the tubular magazines at that time due to the danger of an explosion. It was possible for the point of a bullet to set off the primer of the bullet ahead of it in the magazine tube due to the recoil of the rifle. Some of the new modern bullets, such as the Hornady Monoflex bullets, have a soft tip, which now eliminates that possibility. The third models are collectively known as Ruger No. 1s and have an extremely strong falling block action. These rifles use very powerful loads, which are above the safe pressure levels of the two previous models. Whatever rifle you have, you absolutely have to know what category it falls into: the Trapdoor, the 1895 lever, or the modern Ruger No. 1. All models now use modern smokeless powder, but some purists still use black powder. The 1873 Trapdoor is the weakest of the three models and uses a maximum load of 32 grains of IMR 4198, a commonly used powder. The Marlin 1895 models can use up to 53.5 grains, and the Ruger No. 1 models max out at 57.5. In addition to there being three different variants and strengths of the rifles, there are usually four different loads you can develop for each one. The first load is a plinking load for general fun shooting. It's a somewhat reduced load that produces a mild recoil. The second is a full-bore hunting load which kicks like a mule. The third is a very light load, typically known as a mouse fart. It's used to let kids or smaller people shoot the rifle. The fourth load uses black powder or a black powder substitute as the propellant. Blackhorn 209 is suggested because it's a non-fouling powder, unlike standard black powder, which is quite dirty. Magnum primers are necessary when loading Blackhorn, as it's a bit more difficult to set off. 4570s are known for two things: rainbow trajectories and an extra large double huge recoil. You don't want to spend hours at the range shooting full-strength loads, hence the plinking and mouse fart loadings. A great bullet for the plinking load is the 350 grain Barry's round shoulder plated bullet. This bullet is specifically made for the 4570 and has an extra heavy plating. It's rated for up to 1950 feet per second, but typically shoots best around 1750. My rifle took 44 grains of powder to hit that velocity. This bullet has a moderate recoil. The 350 Barry's bullet loaded with black powder is also considered a soft recoil round. The mouse farts are loaded with about 30 grains of powder and produce a minimal recoil, perfect for women and kids. For the hunting projectiles, two suggestions are a Barnes 250 grain TSX flat nose or a 250 grain Hornady Monoflex, which is a soft-tipped, pointed bullet. Both are non-lead and legal for hunting here in Californication. Heavier bullets in the 400 to 500 grain range also work well. I chose the 250 grain Monoflex bullets, but switched to N120 Vihtavuori powder due to the recommendations from several source materials as being a more accurate powder. 53.5 grains of powder worked out as the most accurate load for my rifle. The velocity is right at 2,500 feet per second, but the recoil is substantial. It literally kicks like a mule. Any animal hit with that load will likely be gutted, quartered, packaged, and wrapped for the freezer before the animal hits the ground. As an example of the power of a 4570, my son Scott was hunting hogs at the Blue Rooster Ranch over in Arizona with his Henry lever action and dumped a huge domestic hog that had escaped and gone feral 7 years prior. The 4570 dropped it in his tracks. It was no contest. As a side note, anytime you're hunting with a 4570, put a 410 shot shell in your pocket. If you happen to run across a decent-sized and very delicious rattlesnake in your travels, just dump your cartridge and shove a 410 into the chamber. 410s shoot very nicely in a 4570. If you're looking for a really fun rifle to shoot, consider a 4570. Several companies are now making them with prices starting in the low 400s.